Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Fun, and I'll be your guide on these meditation practices into mindfulness through the act of drawing. This week, we'll explore bridging of space, bridging that void or that gap between our ideas and our expression, finding a way to communicate across territories, to share our information and knowledge with others and accept theirs as well. But this meditation will happen through drawing, through making just a couple of simple marks over and over again, an elegant flow of the pen or pencil into an arc, that convergence, bridging two empty territories of the page. And as we find our flow in this, through our breath, through our attention, presence to the action of drawing, who knows what might emerge? Complex territory of overlapping and interconnecting bridgeways through the space, new shapes and figures to draw out, new depth or abstract relationships to explore inward. You just need a pen or pencil and some paper you like to draw with, a nice space where you can relax with comfort, but also attention and composure. Gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. As a little exercise today, I thought we'd focus on something that looks at bridging space. Just a way to fill out the page and look for some layering there into the space. My thoughts as I sketched through the idea this morning were to keep it nice and simple to just a couple of arcs, kind of curvy shapes, something with a bit of a swoop to it that we can play with, but also have some flow. And experimenting with the way that two of those or more of those come together just to form there a little bit of a kind of bridge between space in one location to another. So for the warm-up, we'll just play with a scattering of these kind of swooping arc shapes to get comfortable with it, trying a few different directions, experimenting with their proximity, symmetry, or asymmetry and disconnection, as each one exists in its local space, kind of bridge from things on two halves. And as we work through the exercise, this will be our kind of base technique, and may extend into some contouring or layering of lines, perhaps finding some shapes in and around and beneath. And you could feel free to experiment with overlap or intersection or layering, changing of size and orientation, or keeping some consistency, whichever feels right as you begin to develop your drawing. But that'll be our basic shape and starting place. And then move to a larger page and begin to just make sure I'm establishing myself and kind of aware of where I'm at with my body, with my breath, and with my mind, letting my hands relax for a moment, taking a good breath in to fill out the space in the lungs, and letting it just drift out at a natural pace. Ready to move into this open territory of the page, letting the eyes and hand scan across it, maybe playing a little with position, and when you find the place that feels comfortable, bringing that first arc into the page, observing how you draw it in the beginning. Is it whimsical and fast, or is it slow with control? Just watching for yourself how it forms. A little feedback in the observation as we begin, guiding us towards a place of more neutral engagement, how we draw it becoming something natural, observing what feels right in the drawing as we play through a few of them. Again, orientation, location, size, all free to experiment with. Is your arm above the page or resting on it? What do you feel in that engagement of the muscles to draw, of the texture, of the medium? How does the line begin and end? A chance here for observation in the repetition of a simple shape. Again, they can cross over or under each other, gather around. But as we've drawn a few, that action starts to become internalized, taking it out of our focus for how we begin to draw and letting us expand to filling up some space on the page, perhaps even opening up the mind to observing the bridging of spatial territories. And giving us a technique that we can follow and guide with our breath to find some relaxation in the action. In the next few, we'll take some time to establish that interconnection with the breath. Taking a breath in to locate the engagement with the page. Maybe a couple breaths to stabilize, but when you're ready, on that out breath, let the line form. Take the next in-breath to reposition, recalibrate, and then let the breath guide the flow of the pen or pencil as it makes that shape onto the page. Breathing in to establish and find a position, and out to release into that moment of action. The only thing being the breath and the movement of your hand with the pen or the pencil on the page. Bringing our awareness to the breath in to locate, and the breath out to mark, gauge. Finding the rhythm of your breathing cycle. Finding the pace that brings ease and comfort to the movement of the pen or pencil. Again, folding or layering another technique, the technique of breath, the technique of drawing a curve or an arc, coming together in our awareness for a while, the practice of that attention to how we begin, how we flow through an action, and how we let that action end in time. Present for its emergence, present to observe and to guide, and then let it become part of the canvas of time, present in its mark, but gone into our next moment of action and engagement. hopefully through this you begin to find a nice rhythm to the mark on the page. I like to cherish in this time where each moment a fresh breath, find a location, engage in the act of drawing for a few moments. And I don't spend time looking at what's there, just moving through with the action and my breath, letting the page fill just as part of the exercise, outside of composition or direct guidance, practice to allow that space between me and the page to connect outside of thought, just through action of technique and my physical presence here. A few more bridging marks with the breath, but if your page or paper is getting dense or full, begin to change size of the marks to explore new areas, to narrow the focus in. To find moments of overlap and connection. Letting the density of layering, bridging, connect further into that space of the page, to find deeper interaction between each action. Feel free to continue on with this drawing motion, this engagement here with the paper, or if it begins to get full and you find yourself struggling to search for the next location space, find yourself guiding the composition, it may be time to transition to a reading of the drawing, to look into it and find new shapes, new spaces or territories, perhaps bring outline, connection within zones that now emerge between the moments from before. For me, searching, quick with the eyes, letting them guide me through the territory and spaces with a figure that stand out, just capturing them a little bit by tracing around the perimeter. You can continue to connect this action with the breath, giving yourself a breath rhythm to let the eyes scan over the page, fall into a space, and a breath to engage with that space and draw it out from the negative, the void. You may be drawn in to one region or jump around, letting that visual interpretation happening in your mind come forward as you can choose. a conscious observance, and external action from what is observed, combining witness and engagement here in the drawing, always part of our act. When we bring that pen or pencil to the paper, some form of physical engagement with a field, the blank page, an empty field of texture, of opportunity for the pen or pencil, and after each mark, a new place, reconfigured by the relationships of actions taken now and in the past, opening up possibility for new actions in each subsequent reading. The creative act of any kind, whether a doodle to occupy the hands and minds during a meeting or just to warm up in the morning, or the creative action in producing an expression of an idea, an artwork, or something to share with others. All a bridging of that space within, that imagined world, or engagement with technique, reaching out across that page to fill some space into that void that meets somewhere between our intentions and our actions. Just using these exercises or practices to expand that in-between space, that bridging of the moment between idea or thought and creation, to meet it somewhere along the journey for a few minutes, for some reflection, some intentional practice and engagement. A little step outside of ourselves. And take 5 minutes or so here to continue to explore the space. Can oscillate between the initial bridging technique as your eyes have taken in more of the territory, or just continuing to find new in-between spaces. You might find other techniques for connecting across the areas to find bringing layers forward or pushing them back into the page as your eyes adjust to the new territories with each stroke. At this point, the drawing takes on a character of its own, with remnants from the beginning, but emergence of new things and new ways of seeing. So in the next bit, we'll take some time to re-engage our senses here in the act of drawing. And I think I'll do that through kind of a series of finer shadings and interconnections taking these objects in between the light lines and just finding a series of sequential or parallel lines, but you may find any way of keeping the pen moving or the pencil moving on the paper, the high degree of contact, so you can bring your attention in the mind into that space of more rapid repetition. It doesn't need to be fast, but just consistent. And with that, we can listen to the sounds of the pen or pencil on the paper, try to find them in the void of the ambient around us. We can listen into our fingertips, our hand, as those muscles engage with a rhythm that we're guiding. Where do the pressures in the fingertips shift as you move around or along a shape or curve, making these successive marks that bridge between object and curve, between foreground and background. Also a chance in that attention to the hand from the fingertips up into the muscles around the joints of the finger and through the hand into the wrist, to recognize and have a little space of gratitude for our moving joints and hands, whatever you're using to make your mark. These fine motor controls, digits, or gross motions, all a mechanism we have found, cultivated to help us communicate ideas, images, words, bridging across the void of understanding, pulling things out from the emptiness. This exercise of those motions, of those tools, to find connection here visually, but in any format of expression. That's what we're searching for in this abstract search meditation on action and connection to our awareness through drawing. We are really exercising. And at times we let the techniques, the process flow without our direct control, as the detachment from too much guiding and opening up to allow all aspects of our being to engage in that act of expression through drawing here. So that when we engage with a more intentional or guided purpose to the expression, we can move fluidly across that space of idea and image, of communicating. And as we come towards the conclusion of the time here, you can continue to work with the simple sequence of lines or drawing anywhere you like on the page, and using that as an opportunity to come back into our space, perhaps to flex the eyes shut and then reopen them to take in a broader view of the paper. Excuse me. An opportunity to take a few deeper breaths and release any tension that may have built up as you engage with an action over time. Any tightness in the shoulders, let it fall away between engagements with the page. Any tightness in the hand, you can always switch or just put down the pen or pencil as you come back into yourself for a moment. Let me just let this action, this time spent, support us and also drift out as we conclude the practice. As we return from that time spent practicing our mindfulness, finding our expression through action, and releasing ourselves into that creative act of drawing, take a little moment to thank yourself, to feel some gratitude for taking up some space for yourself, for following in an expression to see where it leads, and trusting that the emergence is just something there on the paper, and you can move on or dive deeper in. I thank you for joining along in this practice. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up below and leave me a comment letting me know what you felt and what you may have learned, what new space of creative expression you might have teased out of those short minutes there together. No matter your skill level or your intent with drawing, these practices can just help to move the hand, body, mind, connect with the breath and rhythms, and have a chance for some expression to flow onto the paper. Hope these exercises can support you in whatever you do in the rest of your day or your evening, or at least bring you a little relaxation and space for reflection. This is Brooks' Fun, signing off. Draw well.